Hi everyone, it's Gina K from Gina K Designs and your host of Stamp TV. And today on Stamp TV, I'm going to show you a couple of quick and easy card projects featuring the new A Big Hello card kit. Let me show you the tools and products you're going to need for this project. First, you're going to need some ink. And the inks that I'm using are Sea Glass, Apple Mint, Dusty Rose, and Black Onyx. Then I'm going to be using a couple of stencils, and the stencils that I'm going to use for my projects are the Mandala Burst stencil, and I'm also going to be using the Heartfelt stencil, and this is the stencil that came in the new card kit. I'm also going to be using some stamps, and the stamp set that I'm going to use is a Big Hello stamp set, and this comes inside the kit. I'm also going to use two of the coordinating dies for this stamp set. I'm going to be using the one that works with this flower and then this large stem. For embellishments, I'm going to use some of the Sparkling Sea sequins, and I have a little bit of purple tape that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using my jewel picker, and this is the Marvy jewel picker. I really like this one. It's really easy to use with the sequins. I'm going to be using some Connect glue. I have a couple of acrylic blocks here. I have some of the Gina K Designs foam tape, and this is going to be for my greeting for one of the cards. I'm also going to be using some blending brushes, and then I'm going to be using some Masking Magic. And if you've never used the Masking Magic, it is a very smooth surface, and it provides crisp, clean images for your stamping. You can cut this with scissors or with dies to make masks, and the tack is very, very delicate. It doesn't stick to the paper in any way as far as leaving residue behind, and you can reuse the masks once you make them. So I actually already cut two masks using these dies from A Big Hello. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start with a piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to stamp my image using some Black Onyx ink. So I want to get that done first. Now, I'm going to put my greeting up at the top here, so I want to make sure that my flower doesn't go past that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my Misty stamping tool here, and I'm going to put my piece of cardstock into the Misty. I'm going to put it up at the top of the Misty like this because I want this stem to go off of the card. So it's going to hang down a little bit below the end of the card. So I'm going to position my flower. I want to see where I want my flower first. And I want to make sure that that gives me enough room with my greeting. So there's my greeting. It's going to go up at the top here. So I'm going to move that flower down just a little bit. And then there's plenty of room for my greeting at the top. So I'm going to put my flower just about there. Actually, I can move it over just a hair. And then you can put the stem on at the same time if you want. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to place my stem very close to the flower, like that. And then I'm going to pick that up with the door of the Misty. Now I am going to make sure that I secure my cardstock in there in case I don't get a good impression the first time. And I'm going to be using some Black Onyx ink for this. So I really want to ink this up real well. I'm going to get a nice solid black image. And we'll see how that looks. Now, if you want to get a more solid image, you can always go back again with the Misty and stamp it a second time. There we go. So now I have my flower and my stem all stamped. Now I'm going to clean those stamps, and then I'm going to put the Hello greeting on there. I'm using my tidy towel for that. I'm going to take the Hello greeting and put that in place. So that's going to go right up at the top there, just like that. And then I'm going to stamp that. I just wanted to make sure that I really had enough space to make that work before I went through all of the process of using the stencil. So I'm going to stamp that. And then I'm going to stamp it a second time. Make sure my cardstock is in place. And these are fairly new stamps, so it's always good to stamp them a few times on maybe some scrap paper before you actually work on your project. They'll take ink better after you've used them a few times. Okay, so now I have my big hello greeting, and I'm going to stamp my other part of the greeting right now while I have everything in the MISTI. I think I'm going to use the I've been missing you. So it's going to say, hello, I've been missing you. Put that right about there. Like that. And I will pick that up with the door of the MISTI. And then again, stamp that with a little bit of black ink. There we go. So now I have my greeting all set and I know everything is where I want. So now it's going to be time to do a little bit of stenciling. So the way I'm going to do my stenciling is I'm going to take the two masks that I cut and I'm going to place these masks on top of the design that I've already stamped. So this masking paper is delicate, so you want to be careful when you're working with an image this delicate as you peel it off that you don't tear it. And I'm going to place that right on top of my stem. Let's make sure we move that over just a little bit. There we go. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the flower. And to remove the backing, there is a split down the center, but if you're doing a small image like that, you may not cut it where the split is, so you can just roll it back a little bit. And then I'm going to place that right on top of my flower. It's kind of nice. This masking paper is very thin, so you can see through it, and you can see that you've got kind of even edges going around. You can see it popping through that color. Okay, so now I'm going to use the Mandala Burst stencil, and I'm going to place that just kind of where the center of it is right over the flower, so it's right about there. And then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to use a little bit of purple tape with this. Now you can also use the pixie spray, which is fantastic. But I don't have any pixie spray with me and I'm in the other studio tonight. So I'm just going to use purple tape. Purple tape is always a winner. Okay, and then I have some sea glass ink and I'm going to use a blending brush. And I'm going to ink up this blending brush with some sea glass. And then I'm going to, starting in the center, I'm just going to work my way out of the center, just kind of lightly work my way down until I'm fading out into just about nothing. And you're going to see that a lot better when I pull the stencil off, because it looks pretty bright there, but it doesn't look like much around here, but you are going to see it. But I like that fade. Okay, so now I'm going to peel that off. And then before I take the masks off, I'm going to take the same blending brush with a little bit of ink on it, and I'm going to ink right over the flower. And that's going to accentuate the line, the white around the flower. And I'm going to go down onto the stem. Okay. So now I can remove that purple tape. I won't be needing that. And then I'm going to peel off the masking paper. And you can see how the stencil design doesn't get anywhere inside the flower, so that flower really pops out a lot more than if you had just stamped the flower right over the stenciling. I really like that look. So my next step for this card is going to be to put this panel onto a black panel. And I'm going to do that with a little bit of the Gina K Designs adhesive tape runner. And we'll get that right where we want it. And then I'm going to choose a background cardstock, and I brought two here just to look and see which one I liked better. So my first option was going to be just a white card base, and I think that always looks nice. A white card base always kind of just makes everything pop, but I did want to see what a sea glass one looks like, so I might switch to that. Ooh, yeah, I like that even more. All right, so we're going to put this onto a sea glass background. And then that is a quick and easy card, very elegant looking. One that you can make very quickly. So there's my finished card. Now for my second card project, I am going to use that same big greeting. But for this one, I'm going to use some Dusty Rose cardstock, and then I have a piece of white cardstock and another piece of black cardstock here. And I'm going to start with some stenciling. So the stencil I'm going to use is the Heartfelt stencil, and that's the one that came inside the kit. Now these hearts are straight up and down, they're not random, so I'm going to kind of line it up so that they look like they're nice and straight. And then again, because I don't have my pixie spray here, I'm just going to secure that on the back with some purple tape. Just making sure it's straight. And then I'm going to use some Dusty Rose here. And I'm going to use another blending brush with a little bit of Dusty Rose. So I'm going to start a little bit heavy in the center, and I'm going to work my way up into a pattern where it kind of goes up a little bit on the one side and down a little bit on a diagonal. So I'm kind of filling in this, kind of making like an L. But I'm being very careful not to put too much ink down, and I really want it to fade out to almost nothing. Okay. So that just gives me a little bit of a heart pattern in there. Now my next step is to use the MISTI and stamp my hello greeting. So let me get my MISTI, and then I'm going to place this cardstock in here, and I'm going to find that big hello again, and this is going to go down here, like right kind of partially over those hearts, and just work its way over to the other side. So again, I'm going to use some black onyx for this, because I think there's nothing more striking than splashes of black on your pastel card. I'm a big lover of that little accent of black in just about every card I make. So I'm going to stamp that. And then I'm going to stamp it again, because I really want it to be solid. And then I'm going to choose, oh, that looks good. Isn't that pretty? Love that. And then I'm going to choose a strip sentiment from the stamp set. And I think I'm going to choose, let me look at the ones that are on here. I'm going to choose I've Been Thinking About You. So what I did was I pre-cut a small strip of white cardstock. And I'm going to place that, you can place it either at the top of your MISTI or at the bottom of your MISTI, but right in the corner there. And then once you have it in place, this greeting is the perfect size. And I'll have all the sizes for all of these pieces listed on my blog. And there'll be a link, if you're watching on YouTube, there'll be a link to my blog underneath in the description. So I'm going to pick that up. And then I'm going to stamp that with some black onyx. So I'm not going to use a magnet for this. I don't really need one. And then There we go. I've been thinking about you. And remember, if that's not perfectly straight or you want it differently, you can always flip it on the other side if you didn't get ink on it like I did. Or, of course, you can stamp a whole bunch of these and then cut them out after the fact. Okay, so I'm going to take that strip, and then I have a little pink strip in my stash. I'm sorry, a little black strip in my stash, and I'm going to layer those two pieces together. So I'm going to do that using some of the tape. Seems like I have a fingerprint issue tonight on the back of every piece of cardstock, but I guess it's better than on the front, right? Okay, so I'm going to lay that together. And if that's not perfect, I don't know if you know about the Gina K Designs adhesive tape runner, but it's very forgiving. You can pick that back up and you can move it until it's perfect, and then once you let it sit for a little bit, then it becomes permanent. So let me do that one more time. It's either too close on one side or too close on the other side. I seem to have a little bit better luck when I'm doing these small pieces like this if I'm standing up. But that looks pretty good. Okay, so now my next step for this card is to mount this onto, let me get that out of the way, onto a piece of black cardstock. And then I have a Dusty Rose card base. Of course, you could put this on white if you prefer, but I think it looks really pretty against that Dusty Rose. So I'm going to put this onto the Dusty Rose card base, and then I'm going to use a little bit of that foam tape to pop up that greeting. Now, if you don't have foam tape, you can use a few foam squares across the back. That works fine too. I really do like this foam tape because it's kind of skinny. It's not too wide, and that makes it really easy to use on these skinny strip sentiments. And this is by Gina K Designs and ThermoWeb. And then I'm going to peel the back off, and I'm going to pick it up so I can see it, and put that right about there. And I like the dimension that you get out of that. So I think both of these cards can use a little bit of sparkle. So I have some of the Gina K Designs Sparkling Sea sequins, and I'm going to use them on both because although they have a really pretty turquoise look to them, if you put them on pink, they do have a little bit of an iridescent pink glow to them as well, and I think they're just going to jazz it up really nicely. So I'm going to put one maybe right here, one up here, and one down here. And then I'm going to use my Marvy jewel picker to place these in place. I really like this jewel picker. It really makes it easy to pick up the sequins and lay them down where you want them. And as you can see, I'm using some of the Connect glue. And the Connect glue really does hold embellishments on well. So you can see that little bit of sparkle and shine there. Just adds a little touch of something. And for this one, I really could use our disco ball sequins, but I don't have any with me here. So I think I'm just going to use these and see how it goes. So I'm going to put one down here. I'm going to give a little more glue there. I'm going to put one over here, and then I'm going to put one right up here. I like to work in 3s or 5s, kind of prefer those odd numbers when it comes to embellishments. I think it just balances the card a little bit more. I'll put that there. Get those turned over. What I love about our sequins is they're very flat on the back, and then the edges are raised, so you get a lot of surface area on the back of the sequin, so a lot of glue, and it holds it down really well. But because it's got that little beveled edge, you still get lots of sparkle and shine. So there we go. There are my 2 finished card projects. I hope you've enjoyed today's Stamp TV video, and I hope you'll give these cards a try. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell on my channel so you never miss another video. Here are a couple other videos I think you might enjoy. And thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.